The engines roar.
It's going to be difficult for the drivers this evening with such low visibility, but don't worry, we won't leave you in the dark. Let's shine a light on some talent as we get ready to watch the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship Round 2, and you'll see it all live here on Genisus Extreme. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Tapelo Mariola. Behind the scenes, of course, is our director, Daniel Costello. Tapelo, I have to confess, even though I know a lot of drivers don't like chicanes, I love this modern version of Imola. I love the way it drives.
Look, I'm a fan of this circuit as well. I just love the challenge of it. I know it's the fine margins. You either get it right and you're really quick, or you get it wrong and it's terrible. But I love this circuit, and I know it's going to give us some enjoyable racing tonight.
Absolutely. Now, taking a look at the schedule, we already had our first race at the Red Bull Ring, almost the antithesis of Imola in a way, with how wide open it is and mostly hairpins. Then we're going to be heading off to Suzuka, often touted as a real driver's track. Going to be one where they're going to have to up their game there. We'll head off to Zolder after that. Barcelona, of course, with its swift corners, going to be difficult in qualifying, probably important there. And then finally, wrapping it up with a classic at Bathurst, which definitely will accrue a few victims, I'm sure, by the end of that race. But for now, we focus on Imola and the way that that is going to be going. Meanwhile, let's take a look at what they are fighting for here. Quite a bit, honestly. First place worth $530. Well, $530 rather, plus 3 months coaching with Coach Dave Delta Sub. And of course, IMB gloves, awesome stuff. I know I race with sim racing gloves myself. We've got $325 for second place, more deals with Coach Dave Delta. And then you've got socks, that one. I've never raced with sim racing socks, but surely it would be interesting to get to try some of that gear. And then, of course, we've got $220 for third. And then further on down, you could see even more on the line as drivers all the way down to 6 will be able to bring something home after their competition in this series. Let's take a quick look, though, at what happened in our opening round.
Pole position. It's a welcome return then to that man there in the number 1, the Ferrari of Jack Alexander, alongside Luke Whitehead in the number 55 Porsche. Row 2 is going to be George Boothby, and we go green flag racing then. Great start from Luke Harrison as well as George Boothby just behind. They all go into turn number 1, and that is going to be Luke Whitehead up into the lead of the race. We've got cars going wide at the background here. Now, what can that Ferrari of Jack Alexander do? Go for a replay then of that lap 1. This is going into turn number 2, and that is going to be a big bit of avoidant action there. That is going to be the number 31 there. Oh, sorry, number 39, excuse me.
Settling down in the way that the later races will, where people are more confident in where they stack up. As we see 3 cars going abreast, there's a bit of contact, but that's okay. Down into the brakes, very, very confident. Will he split the middle? These are such tense moments when people are going into the braking zone with 2 cars side by side, 3 cars side by side. I always tend to clinch myself because I know all it takes is someone missing their braking zone by a meter, and then it's contact down the inside. The McLarens are looking very well. We saw this with the McLarens as well. They look very stable
in the race here. So the pit stop window, oh, that's Duplessis spins around at the left-hander there at Roush, collects another card there. I think that might have been, was that Max Meineke getting caught up again? A quick replay here. So this is coming along the start-finish straight here, and you can see trying to defend there, a little bit of contact there between the two of them, and Whitehead just breaks completely out of it.
We'll get back to that as we see Castorino currently trying to get a move done on Philip Menard. Do they outbreak them? Brilliantly done. Well driven. That is how you break into the inside of a corner. With David Christie, the Aston Martins seem to have strong race pace.
Big send up the inside there as Nowski tries to go around the outside there. That was very brave from the McLaren. Couldn't quite happen.
Just keep it lead while I talk. But yes, brilliant racing side by side. Oh, as we see the elbows pushed out, the Aston Martin of Castorino just pushed a tad wide there, but no contact, fair as fair can be.
Hander here as we've got just 50 minutes left to go to the inside then, cuts it, doesn't quite make it through, late on the brakes though. They're going to be side by side down into Red Mobile. This is going to be the final corner. Castorino has done it, but does that BMW have the run? It did have the grunt. They're going to be side by side. There is a slight overlap here, and he's going to have to be very careful. And here comes Philippe Menard as well, as Castorino sent it up the inside, and that leaves him very vulnerable for this long straight. Here comes Cody Sherritt then, side by side with Philippe Menard as well. You've also got Tommy Rozier. He fancies having a go as well here. This is absolute chaos coming in to the final 15 minutes. We've got 3 wide, almost 4 wide. Jaroslav Hontik in the background as well. Castorino sweeps round the outside. Beautiful manoeuvre there to take 6th position, and that is going to be out to the outside goes Cody Sherritt, so does Philippe Menard. He's caught up in all of this. Jaroslav Hontik up into P11 also, as we've got a 5-card battle going down into Schlossgold. Around the outside goes the BMW, goes the Aston Martin. Jaroslav Hontik can't quite get that done. You've got Cody Sherritt on the inside there. This is madness there, a little bit of a kiss there. That Ferrari was always going to be in there. And the Aston Martin tries to just ease off the brakes and pull that car around. They get the feeling that might be job done on that livery that he's got on. But Abe Santima sent it up the inside of the Lamborghini for Finn Zimbel. Zimbel, who was doing a great job of holding on to that top 20 position, looks like he's just been muscled out by the Aston Martin as well, up the inside there. Jack Alexander, round 1 of season 3, the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship, and the Ferrari driver has plucked this out of the absolute air. It's a wonderful victory there, round 1 of the championship, and Jack Alexander takes it after that amazing qualifying session. Grantas Caracas is going to take 2nd position, and then it's going to be Luke Whitehead in 3rd, David Purtill in 4th, Luke Addison in 5th position.
Plenty happening at the Red Bull Ring, as it almost always is. Tends to put up some exciting races, but let's take a look at the championship because of that. Now remember, they get 2 drop races over the season, so that's going to help them out tremendously as we progress into this. But Jack Alexander currently leading it with Caracas, only about 6 points behind him, as you'd expect early in the season. Things going to remain close with the top 5 drivers only separated by about 18 points up there. But Whitehead, Purtill, Addison, Fisher, they're all looking like they're coming out strong in the early stages. Now they have to follow it up here for the second round here at Imola. But the qualifying is just about wrapping up here in a few moments' time. You can see they've got enough for just a couple more laps. But as I alluded to Pelo at the start of the show, it is in the dark, and it actually was wet at the beginning of this. So this is horribly difficult conditions.
If there was ever a race to test your confidence as a driver, this would be it. You already have a difficult circuit.
So definitely, yeah, it's extremely difficult. Apologies for a few technical hiccups. We'll get sorted out in a brief moment. But this place known for being difficult to overtake, although with that long front straight coming down into the Tamburello chicane, expect a lot of drivers to be trying into there, although you can sometimes see passes into places such as the Alta chicane up at the top of the course, maybe into Ravazza, where things get a bit opportunistic, but difficult with the downhill braking into that double left-hander. So getting a good finish in this qualifying going to be so important. Boothby, known for being extremely fast in this series, right now has a gap of about 1/10 of a second over Pertile. So it's looking like he's got himself in a good position to make up for his DNF from last round. And as soon as I say that, Statsenko looks like he has jumped up into P2. And thankfully for the Tifosi, it was a Ferrari 1-2. Now it looks like we've got Castorino jumping in up into that second spot. And it is 3/100ths of a second between himself and Boothby. It is going to be tight here. Coming down through the last moments now that the checkered flag has come out. Anybody on a hot lap able to complete it from here. Riding on board with Minar now in the 255, sitting in 6th position. Has what looks to be about 2/10 of a second to try and get up to the pole. That is a very small margin around a lap such as this. And he's going to have a little bit of a car in front. I don't think that's going to be enough to cause him issues. These GT3 cars do cause a bit of a wake around here, but he's far enough away that I think, thankfully, this BMW should be able to complete the lap without being hindered all the way to the end as he exits out of the Ravazza double left-hander and onto the main straight. Let's see what it looks like as he crosses the line now. And don't believe he had an improvement on that one. No, he did. He did. He goes up to the pole over Boothby, less than 1/10 of a second ahead of him. Can Boothby respond as he finished up his qualifying? Checking out Honzik now in the Veloci Esports car. See, proceeds down through the Ravazza I keep calling it the chicane. Ravazza once again. Castorino now coming across the line. He goes quicker as well. Track must be drying and rubbering up here. Remember, I mentioned earlier that they started out in rain, and I'm not sure if that continued on into the qualifying, but clearly the track was improving as we saw multiple drivers going ever faster at the very end of this one. Okay, that's going to set our grid for today's event. What an exciting end to that one as drivers will get ready to grid up and try to apply themselves around this circuit. Hopefully we'll get clean up through Tamburello. This place is notorious for that first chicane causing all kinds of accidents. It's not the tightest of chicanes, but at the start of the race, trying to find your line, stay safe, and also avoid the monster sausage curbs at the apexes proves extremely difficult for drivers. You'll see them tangle with one another or just simply kind of clatter over those curbs, get spun out in front of the group, and wind up all over the place. Castorino puts himself on the pole for this one as Minar will start in a second. Boothby in P3. Ferrari at one point on the front row, but unfortunately slotted to the second row with Statsenko next to him in the 144. Pertile starting in P5 with Manson in the 6th spot. Then in row 4, you've got Honzik starting 7th and Whitehead in P8. Addison will be starting in 9th, the next Ferrari down here on home soil. Fisher and his BMW will round out your top 10. Couple of Ferraris there on row 6 with Riley and Caracas. Then it's Barrier starting in the 13th spot. Caracas, excuse me. Durkop will start in the Honda NSX. Glad to see that represented. One of my personal favorites there in the number 63, 14th for him. Bischoff in the 15th spot. You've got Malinowski starting in P16, Eater in P17, and Sherritt starting 18th place today. Then it'll be Adams starting P19, Razor in the 20th spot, and then Deploy in 21st. From there, Meyer will begin at 22nd and Moberg in 23rd. From there on down, you've got Malinowski starting in 16th, Eber will be in P17. or excuse me, we already went over those going through here. It is, looks like Salterna starting 24th. Leitinen will be 25th, and you've got Venter starting in the 26th position. Leska will be in the 27th. Clifford in 28th. You've got Holmes starting 29th, and Betten in 30th. Looks like I think we're being joined by Tapello. Rest of the field in here, Tapello, as we've completed qualifying. Boomsma, it looks like Hachet, Bauer, Foch, and Rochelle are going to be rounding out our field of 35 cars. It's not that long of a lap around here, Tapello. I wonder, with a 60-minute race, how much lapped cars are going to become a problem today.
A lot of the drivers have been working on just how to navigate during a race, cars getting out of the way safely, trying not to be a nuisance in the elements of a race. But you're right, it's a very difficult track, so we will see cars bunch up. So it will take a bit of consideration from the leading pack on how to navigate that. You don't want to lose too much time, but you also want to avoid incidents in that kind of situation. But that's racecraft and that's racing, so it's something they'll have to figure out as they go along.
Exactly. Everybody's got to deal with it. And if you can manage it better, maybe you could steal a position. Maybe you could snag a win today. But looks like they're getting ready to take off on their pace lap and get going here momentarily as the lights are all up on the headlights of the cars. Cool conditions out on the track as well, Tapello. I wonder how difficult it'll be to try and get those tires fully up to the right temperature on these opening laps.
Hated this part of any race. I actually hate the first lap because you don't know what your car is in. You're trying to warm up those tires best as you can, but heading into that first corner, it's always sort of like a leap of faith. And with the first corner that's as difficult as this, heading into a chicane, 35 cars on the grid, slightly like really cool temperatures, it's going to be a problem. So we might see an incident or two in the opening corner, but I think a lot of these drivers are experienced enough to kind of work through it. So maybe you might have your fingers crossed for this one.
Yeah, gonna cross fingers, eyes, and toes and hope that maybe we can get away with everybody managing to get out of the first couple corners clean and everybody get on their way. 60 minutes is a long time to race. And there's that old racing adage, Tapello, that you can't win it in the first corner, but you certainly can lose it.
Definitely, especially on a circuit like this, cool temperatures, you might just lose the whole race in the opening 2 laps.
All right, coming down through, it looks like Aqua Minerale here. It'll be even more difficult. I know I'm a nerd for corner names and everything, but in the dark, it's going to be even harder to identify exactly where the cars are on this circuit and them having to deal with everything being so dim out there. I believe it says up at the top about 11:30 p.m. here in the virtual world. So it is well into the nighttime. They're going to be going past midnight for this race within the sim itself. It's not going to be getting any warmer on the track. This is Aqua Minerale, so I was a bit wrong earlier. This is that difficult double apex right-hander Tapello that I've seen catch out so many drivers trying to whoa up the car into here.
I myself have been a victim of this complex multiple times, so I can tell you right now it's as difficult as everyone says, and especially with these cooler conditions, because essentially as you come into Aqua Minerale, really heavy braking zone, but it's downhill, so we will see a lot of cars taking to the tarmac area, kind of running off track just to get that car settled. So it is tricky. You might lose the rear bit, a bit of snap, might have to control that. But look, it's dark. Push comes to shove, cars are turning left, cars are turning right. Which corner, we're not sure, but they will be going in this race. But it's going to be fun. I can tell Joe we're going to have some good racing tonight.
Amadeo going to try and start it off well and hope that he holds on to the lead down into the Tamburello chicane at the start of this race. He'll need a good jump to keep Minar off of him. So let's see what happens here as they are lined up side by side, waiting for the call from the flag stand to start tonight's 60-minute race for round 2. Are we going to be able to get a good beginning to this one with everybody having to tiptoe their way around in limited visibility through one of the trickiest corners? You can see the lights still red up at the top as they wait for the green. see when this change is over. It's usually a long ways down before they get to that start-finish line. As you can see, they go around multiple bends on the front stretches. It is not straight up along here. And there it is. Green flag is out. Looks like Castorino gets an excellent jump as Minar is going to try and see if he can get alongside coming into Tamburello. Boothby still fighting side by side with Statsenko, and up into the first chicane. Leaders go single file pretty quickly, not seeing any accidents at the back. This is a good sign, Taps.
Yeah, what a start by all these jumpers as we speak. Curse of the commentator seeing a car in the grab. Luckily, that's still safe. So a decent start, still a good start from in just opening, keeping her in line, and that's all you can ask for at a start like this, a circuit like this. You just want it to be as clean as possible, and Castorino, Minar, and Statsenko have just done that.
We've got Bertile on board here with 5th place, looking back at Manson behind him. The McLaren giving chase, seeing if he could try and get a good run here, but as they come down, ooh, somebody off track there down into Aqua Minerale, and the Whitehead off course. I think that's in Piratella, it looks like.
Definitely it is, and that is Luke Whitehead. So a huge shake-up to a podium sitter in the previous race, and that just makes it so much more difficult to catch up, because like you said, this is a very tricky circuit, and you kind of want to keep pace with everyone. The moment you lose pace, you're gonna struggle. So that is a terrible moment for Luke Whitehead.
Hanzik looking down to the inside of Ravazza as he almost gets by Boothby, but cut back underneath. Nice move by Addison. He's going to try and get him back as they now fly onto the main straight. It looks like, I think he managed to get that pass done. In fact, he's got a very good run. He might have a chance on Boothby.
Action galore down this main straight that really isn't straight, but it's all about who can be brave under the brakes as we ride with Hanzik on board. He took the safer option, braked a bit too soon, and you can see they've lost 2 positions there already. So we're already seeing some drivers feeling so much more confident under the brakes, and some drivers like Hanzik in this case still trying to figure it out, get a feel for the temperatures and how well they can just push that braking zone heading into these corners.
So those willing to be aggressive and really find it early on could get themselves that track position. Carakas here in the number 19, sitting in 9th place. So it looks like he's jumped up to 8th, actually. Wonder if he managed to also get by Boothby as we check out Gert Fischer coming up towards Piratella as well. This is a very single file corner here, very fast and blind, but he manages it well.
Definitely managing it well. So not seeing any incidents into Aqua Minerale would have been my hotspot for some issues for the drivers trying to catch that rear as it steps out. But these drivers are doing really well, because with the limited visibility, you really need to position your car well. As we see a Ferrari down the inside, down the outside, that is a position held there for Riley as Fischer just struggles to get through that corner. But so far, the pace is still there and they are still bunched up. So we're not seeing the segmentation of the grid so far, but we are seeing cars bunched up together as we have this 4-car battle for P8 and P9. So this will be interesting. P10 to P13. So it will be interesting to see how these can find their position on the track and make up steam into to finish the opening stages of this race.
Yeah, Fischer with barrier just behind him. Is he going to guard the inside? Yes, he is, as he tries to dissuade him from trying to make an attack up into the Tamburello chicane, but the Aston Martin is still right on top of him, and it's starting to look like a bit of a train actually behind him. They've got Moberg, Hanzik, Santema also in there, a couple of them swapping positions in the meantime through the first sector around the outside as Boothby. I'm a bit surprised that he's been falling backwards the way he has.
Yeah, it seems like a bit of catch, but kind of surprising with Boothby. Speak about him a lot, and my co-commentator knows well. George Booth's knack for pick the season goes really just being super confident as we have a car struggling with contact on the rear of George Boothby. I don't think there's a... I think Abe's team just lost his rear. So that is another incident. As I was saying, going to be very difficult. Catch those moments.
Looks like Tariq able to get a position here. Adam overtaking, I think that was Honzik, or actually maybe that was even Boothby there that he was able to get by. You have to bear with us, as at times it's going to be difficult to make out who is who in the darkness. But yeah, it looks like Abe having a bit of a problem coming up through Piratella before he wound up in the barriers on that one. And, oh, we're getting information. It sounds like the reason Boothby is so slow right now, he put on wet tires, and that does not look like a wet track to me right now. Oh, my goodness. That thing has got to be absolutely atrocious going through the corners. So, as we now watch Clifford plunging down for 19th place, excuse me. Nice overtake there over Honzik into Tamburello. He carries on up into Villeneuve here, as he's got a little bit of a side-by-side battle in front of him as well. Venter and Boothby up there. He's going to try and pick up a spot with, it looks like Venter maybe being a bit slow off the second chicane. This is up through Tosa now. It's going to be so important to get a good exit off of here, heading up towards Piratella. You can see him kind of looking off to the side, Clifford versus Venter. And no dice on that one behind him. Look at Honzik, Holmanson, Tama all battling with one another. Good run coming off of Piratella. Can he get it done? Yes. Picks his pocket coming down into Aqua Minerale. That was an important move for the 999 Lamborghini. One of the other Italian marquees here, looking to try and represent on home soil besides the Ferraris. Trying to make out who the highest of the Ferraris is at the moment. Big moment for a home, though, down in 20th here. Car squirming underneath him as he flies off the Alta chicane. Nearly contact behind him between Santema and Honzik. Coming down into Ravazza. They're 2 by 2 behind him, all looking for position. This is much more chaotic than I would have thought. This track known for seeing a lot of single file racing, but everybody is charging hard today. Unbelievable stuff all up and down the field. I think this qualifying main has thrown the cat amongst the pigeons. We do have a bit of windshield wiper going for home, it looks like. Maybe there is a bit of moisture out on the track, but it doesn't seem like it is enough to really merit those wet tires that we've seen a few of our drivers put on to start this race. They will have a pit stop later on, as the fuel cannot make it to the finish. Pit window looking to be anywhere between 40 minutes to go and 20 minutes to go. 777 of Holmes still hunting on Boothby here. Chartier, among those that took those wet tires, certainly going to be having his hands full as well. Boersma, as Ronaldo and the Mercedes coming up the hill, going to be side by side with the number 29 machine. They're going to go wheel to wheel through here. He just gets faded out onto the curves. Not a big surprise, as that's a very difficult off-camber corner. And it looks like I'm getting information now that it is the 144 that is our highest of those Ferraris right now, up at the top of the field, being led by an Aston Martin. So I'm sure that's not going to make the Tifosi all too pleased right now, but at least they've got one on the podium. Ooh, Durkop, does he have a penalty, or is he experiencing some damage here? See, plunges down into the pit lane under the dim lights there. We'll try and get some information on that a little bit later on. Barrier into the top 10 right now. Fighting with the number 78 in front of him of Fisher. This is what looks to be coming up to, I think, the Villeneuve chicane here. This is a very swift entry into this portion of the lap. Back and forth through the right-hander. It's a little bit tighter on the second half, trying to guard the inside. Fisher does not want him to try and stick his nose in, but he has to leave an opening as he does get down to the inside of Tosa. And now it's going to be a drag race up the steep hill towards Piratella. Barrier going to keep trying hard, but just not deep enough on the brakes. Great defense by Fisher on that one, holding on to that 9th spot for now. We're only 10 minutes into this thing, and it's felt like we've had about a half an hour's worth of racing. Oh, now we're hearing that there's a little bit of rain starting to appear on the track as off goes Fisher. That might explain his trouble finding the grip. Changeable conditions, absolute worst nightmare for the drivers. And here we go. So now we got drivers coming into pit lane as well. I suspect that might explain why we saw Durkop come in. Maybe he was getting wet tires to try and head out there. Is this going to work out for Boothby in the end, or is he used up too much? I mean, he's been on those tires for at least 5 laps or so. Surely the tread has to be gone on those things, because that was a long time to be chewing up tires on a dry track. As now some of our front runners start to drop backwards on the slick tires as the track gets wetter and wetter out there. Boothby gonna start to hopefully pick a few up, but has he used up the best of them? Pertile up in 4th. He's got Statsenko in front of him, who holds the fastest lap for now. You can start to see some of the puddles forming out on the in the grass there, which means it is absolutely getting wet. Yes, and the shine really starting to get more and more distinct on the track surface. It very much is fully wet on the track now. Side-by-side action between Sherritt and Rochelle. So it looks like he is maybe going to be able to get by the 77. Can't quite tell if that was actually switched around there. Addison pitting in from farther down in the order, putting some wet tires on that Ferrari. So the reason we are at times maybe a little bit behind on who is in front of who, the tower that you see up there, and as well our timing and scoring will only update at each sector. So we'll try and keep tabs on that. And I've been trying to spy those numbers on the sides of the car as well to see who is who. Fortunately, it looks like those McLarens not showing them. As much as I do love the McLarens, that is a bit annoying for us commentators. So Tommy in the number 29 here. Whoa, is going to get absolutely mugged by Malinowski in the 992. He's going to try and scythe his way through. And not only now do they have the darkness, but the spray of the cars ahead going to just add to the lack of visibility out on the track right now. As Malinowski could see Bishop maybe trying to take a move on home for 19th position as well. Also got Eater in there in the number 46. Another train kind of forming. This is more used to what we're seeing here at this track. Looks like there is a bit of a drier line now on the racing line because of the drivers getting those dry tires on, kicking up the moisture into the air, spreading it off the track. We're hearing that the forecast is saying the rain should stop in about 10 to 15 minutes from now. We'll see if that's accurate or not. Always kind of a gamble there. You kind of have to just, there's the old quote that you have to have the right tire on at the right time. You can't always predict that. You can try and take a shot on that, but it's almost always a case more of reacting to what's happening out there. You can take a gamble, especially if you're far down the order. Go a little early in hopes that the rain is lightening up and get on those slicks, but that's usually something for the back markers to try more so. Oof, more action coming down into Aquaman Raleigh. I can't believe how much good racing we're getting out of these cars. Bischoff here up into 16th now, managing to get by Santema. As they flow through the Alta chicane. Boothby up to 12th, but remember, he started in the front 2 rows. I think he began this race in 3rd. He'll get another. He'll go up into 11th. So it's working out, at least in comparison to where he was before the rain started. But I'm afraid for this guy, it's a net loss, essentially. Just way too much time getting absolutely mugged for positions left and right and couldn't hold up with the traffic. Now that the rain has come out, it's just too many cars pulled too much of a gap on him. Meanwhile, checking back in with the battle for 16th. Yeah, look at the visibility here. Wipers working overtime down into the braking zone. Hope you've got some spots at the side of the track there picked up to try and know where you need to get on the binders. Not to mention just trying to figure out how much grip is available. You can see him braking a little bit earlier this time, making sure that he doesn't run into the back of Bishop. This is up through Tosa now. Just not as good on the gas, it appears, as the number 2 is able to run away a little bit. I'd say rain is the great equalizer in racing, being able to read the grip, understand what the car is doing. As it sounds like race control has elicited some penalties here. So 15 seconds for car 63 causing a collision. Okay. So that's going to be a time penalty applied after the race or in the pit stop. Oh, as off track goes, looks like Bishop, I think, there for a brief moment. So Malinowski now on his battle down into Ravazza, the final 2 corners. Looks like he's actually managed to overtake that 999. Yeah. So you can see he's ahead of the Lamborghini now. Nicely done by Machiez in the Veloce Esports car. And apologies to all of our Polish fans if I have absolutely botched that name. Meanwhile, back up to Boothby, still the 11th. Maybe he'll get into the top 10 here. Seeing if he can get by one of our NSXs. Oh, great move coming off of the Villeneuve chicane. Powers around the outside and is able to cut down into Tosa. That was brilliant stuff over Lehtinen. Gets himself one more and back up in the top 10. About 6 or 7 more positions to make up to get himself back into the hunt. So 46 and 9 also came together on lap 1. And 5 seconds for the number 46 car, again, for causing a collision. Not too surprised, especially with how many cars were really tangling in those first laps. What about Honzik here? Coming around in his Aston Martin, chasing on another of our Hondas. Coming up off of the Alta chicane, that was another good run. Maybe a bit of a theme forming up here that Lehtinen not as good off the corners. Keep seeing drivers making these moves on him, getting the power down and able to get him on the straightaway. It's always easier to pass on a straight than it is in a corner. So if you can get them off the turns, it's always the way to go. Honzik moves himself up into 11th with that excellent pass. Or maybe just the Honda not as good in the wet, what we're seeing here today. So as we ride down the front stretch now with Whitehead, had an off a little bit earlier. Porsche going to try to come back into this one. Up against one of our McLarens. It's going to look off to the inside. He'll get that positioning down into the first chicane. Shuts the door once he knows he is cleared. Nice and smooth from the 55 into 19th position over Santema. Starting to get close to the pit window, but since a lot of drivers just took tires recently, I don't know that we'll see many of them come in, but we'll wait and see. Might still have drivers try to come in a little bit earlier. Maybe they'll wait until the rain starts to stop and they'll come in and take their scheduled stop, save themselves one out there. In fact, it's kind of amusing to think that 2 stops would save them a stop. Usually it's a 1-stop race. So they head back down the hill once again, past what few lights they have. This is usually towards all the housing on the outside of Ravazza. Can't imagine being 12:30 at night. and cars roaring past. I would like it. I don't think everybody would, but then I love racing enough that I'd be more than glad to sit out and watch them zip by to all hours of the night. Thankfully, it's the virtual world where we don't have any worries about noise complaints here. Ooh, Lehtinen heading in. I wonder if he didn't have his wet tires on yet. Muska also pitted in. Maybe they were waiting to try and make it a single stop here. We'll have to see if we can get some information on that, and whether or not they had tried and desperately stayed out. If so, that's impressive that they've been as quick as they have, because that saves them a pit stop. Granted, it looked like they lost a lot of spots, but I mean, if they can get to the end from here and everybody else still has to come in for fuel, then that'll work out perfectly. Yeah, lots and lots of cars pitting very early here as the pit window is indeed open. So maybe this is simply a call that we see many drivers deciding it's worth it to just go for the early stop, even if they do have those wet weather tires on already and recently took a pit stop. What about Valentin Barrier out here? Could be Barrier if I see the French flag on there. So again, apologies. Silly American is always going to botch some of those names. I am getting confirmation Barrier, so I feel less embarrassed about that one. But Valentin and that number 72 sandwiched between a lot of Ferraris. The lone Aston Martin, a sea of horses. See if he can fly away from them with those wings. And the 800 aggressively down into the corner is going to get his nose in and actually get the position. That was mighty stuff. Great job by the 80 there. Meanwhile, Pertile also pitting in. Boothby, ooh, seeing him once again. But we know that he started on the wets. So he returns to the pits. Well, comes to the pits, I guess, for the first time from 9th position. Very busy pit lane. We're hearing still at least 10 more minutes of rain. I think we heard that about 10 minutes ago. So that is continuing on. Again, it's just like your trip to the bus stop going to work. You can't always trust what the weatherman is going to say. Just have to kind of bring that umbrella and hope for the best, but expect the worst, as my Boy Scout training taught me. Meanwhile, Bischoff here in a battle for a podium position. Clifford just in front of him in the 999 Lamborghini. So McLaren versus Lambo out here. But watch out behind them. Meyer, Durkop, all close behind. These are drivers that all took stops not all that long ago, but outside of the pit window to get the wet weather tires on. Marco trying to put some pressure on those bright lime green accents. Hard to miss in the darkness. Breaking down into Aqua Minerale. Both of them taking quite a bit of curb. Got to be careful. Paint can get slippery in the wetness, as he took a little bit of a look, and Bischoff is indeed going to be able to claim, oh, that third position. He nearly throws it away, wagging the tail of that McLaren coming off of the Alta chicane. Our leader, Honzik, pitting in now. So back to Bischoff. Still has some time to make up here. In fact, quite a gap, I believe, up to the next car up. Sherritt, who I'm guessing is going to be pitting in. Oh, Bischoff also coming in. So he might not have taken his stop quite yet. Quite a mix of strategies. My head is still spinning, trying to keep my head around who is stopped and who is not myself out here. But right now, Sherritt still your leader, according to time and scoring. Bischoff falls down the order to looks like about 9th position. Castorino, who started this one on pole. I mean, no surprises that an Italian's going well here at Imola. Minar also was up with him on that front row. Has definitely dropped down a little bit due to the breadth and width of strategies that we've got here today. Honzik down to 20th just as he emerges, almost managed to get out there ahead, but no dice. What about down to Muska? Sitting 25th position, Malinowski in his Porsche 992 just in front of him. The track map also very interesting to see the spread of drivers ahead of Muska here. There's a lot of cars for the Ferrari to want to overtake. Can see a good chunk of them in front of them before they probably disappear. The line going around the next corner almost probably looks like just a never-ending train of cars. So we're getting close to the halfway point of this race. It seems like we've seen the vast majority of the field take their stop and be able to take it to the finish from here. But then that doesn't take into account whether or not that rain will actually stop. So we check out Valentin Barrier fighting with Riley for 18th position. Ferrari versus Aston once again. Like I said, sometimes you can see passes down into Ravazza here, but he's definitely not close enough this time. Back up to Manson, though. He's with Clifford. As Manson actually makes the pass, so just as we come over here, he must have just managed to sneak by. Oh, and in the meantime, side by side, Clifford fighting with Durkop. So that was actually, I think, Manson on Addison, maybe that pass was happening before. And Moberg as well down here in 23rd position. Going to be able to get by Malinowski here in the number 23 Porsche. Malinowski's having his hands full in this race, that is for sure. On board with Moberg, looking at Malinowski, who gets a good run. Woo! Is going to absolutely send it, and he's not afraid to use those elbows. He's going to shove that McLaren out off to the side, weaving a little bit. That is interesting. Not sure what exactly he was trying to do there. Got to be careful of that one. Don't want to get a penalty for blocking. Moberg now has Muska behind him. I mentioned he had a whole bunch of cars that he'd probably want to try and pass, and well, he's got two right in front of him that are squabbling quite a bit. That might offer an opportunity. What about the number 99 versus the 63? Battle for second place. Best of the rest here as Sherat tries to run away from them. Gap, I think, was up to about 6 seconds last time by. Oh, but you know what? Meyer might not have to worry, because we can see on the timing tower, Durkop still has that 15-second penalty. So on our timing tower, those who have pitted are all in green. And then meanwhile, the yellow with the number 1 mean that they still need a stop. So we still need to see those drivers coming in. And yeah, Meyer probably would like to get by him, but unless he's being held up and his time is being hampered, I feel like someone needs to let him know, you know, Durkop's going to be no longer a problem once those pit stops are done, as Minar manages to get by, I think, the 21 there. Oh, excuse me, that was a pass on Bauer, so that's going to put him into 10th place. Back to Tariq Adam. This is him fighting with Clifford. Looks like he's also managed to get that one done. This is for 6th place. Ooh, if that was in Aqua Minerale, that would have been an impressive one. So he sneaks by. Pit window still has another 10 minutes left for drivers that still need to stop. Those who have Castorino the highest up. Remember, he started on the pole with Minar about 3 seconds behind him. So he's definitely the best placed currently. As long as Sherat, as long as Sherat is going to be in longer than the bogey time. Deploy, pitting in, taking his service now. And there is Cody Sherat. Looks like he's about halfway through this lap. Lap time's around here, about 1:50. So it has maybe 5, possibly 6 more laps before the pit window is closed. Obviously, this promotes those few more drivers pitting, promotes some of those up. And I thought I saw maybe one of them. No, excuse me, that's just our timing tower update. I thought somebody was dropping down the order there for a brief moment. Although Manson, and Meyer going to be fighting for P3. Meyer going defensive, coming up through the Alta chicane. McLaren versus McLaren here. Kicking up the water into the windscreen of the British-made car. Will he hold the inside? Oh, but he brakes extremely early. Manson, a lot braver. Doesn't matter that he defends. Looks like Manson going to be able to pick up another spot, promote himself onto what is currently the podium, but we believe he's going to be shuffled down the order once he takes his pit stop. And much like Groundhog Day, we're hearing rain is stopping within 10 minutes. So on it goes. Still being predicted to have an endpoint at some time. As Castorino going to try and pass on Clifford. Now, again, he doesn't necessarily have to make this pass. He just doesn't want to be held up. Doesn't look like Clifford has much for him, though. Yeah, Clifford going to let him through. Now, we mentioned it a little bit earlier, and just want to revisit it because we haven't talked about it a bit. Since the rain is still being predicted to stop within the next 10 minutes or so, we could be seeing those drivers at the top of our tower on the left waiting for that rain to quit and just save themselves a pit stop, because everybody else behind them is probably not going to be able to run to the end on those rain tires. If it stops raining, yes, we don't have the sun drying the track, but those tires will kick up enough of it that they'll start to be a dry line. And that's going to be fascinating because it's a lot harder to see visually whether or not it's time to try and change tires. Boothby, though, down in 15th. Make that 14th here as he's able to get by Venter. And apologies to Venter. Got that sort of Dutch V in there. But Boothby now into 13th. And that number 800. Out of the cars, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he's 6th of those who have taken their stop so far, which is not as bad, not as dire as it looked before. I still don't totally know about his strategy. I'm not totally convinced. To me, it feels like it was a gamble that doesn't look like it's paid off, but he could still look like a genius afterwards, as we got another driver heading in. I think that was Meyer. Yeah, that looks to be Meyer. Bauer pitting. Okay, so yet more drivers picking up spot after spot here. Jonathan Riley down here in his own Ferrari with Foch in front of him. This is for 14th position, so not far behind where Boothby was battling just a bit earlier on screen. Ooh, look at them all trying to position the car coming down into the Villeneuve chicane there. Again, that's a very fast entry into that turn, and doing it in the dark, I mean, doing it in normal conditions is scary. Doing it in the dark is scary. Doing it in the dark in the wet, as I don't know why these guys are trying this, because I would be way too afraid to try and make something stick into there. Riley's even willing to attempt it coming up into Piratella. But no, not going to be able to get past that Ferrari. Down into Aqua Minerale once again. Fenter up in front of them in his BMW. I don't think they'll want to fight too much here. Not that far behind that they could try and catch up to that Bimmer and maybe make a pass. A lot of curb there for the Aston Martin. Barrier just behind Riley here. In fact, looks like Barrier thinks about it down into Ravazza. Not quite close enough though, but shows his nose. Make sure that Riley has to continue to play defense. So we're hearing that Fenter may have... Oh, Sherritt, excuse me, our leader. Something's happened to our leader. I'm not entirely sure what, because he's off pace by about 3 seconds per lap right now. I wonder if he had an off and has some damage. Yeah, he's in 4th now. Now he still needs to stop as well. I don't see damage on the car from where we sit here on the cameras, but you can tell he's struggling as he has to go defensive down into Tosa. Okay, so here's Sherritt, and no, that wouldn't be into Tosa, that would be into Alta right now. Okay. Very strange stuff here. Surely it had to have been some sort of off, because the car wouldn't suddenly lose pace that quickly just due to tires. It would be a little bit more gradual than that. Gert Fischer down, trying to get into 18th position, but no, Lehtinen will deny him. Sounds like we got more information from race control. Car 14 and 39, lap 4. It's quite a while ago at this stage. 5 seconds for the number 14 car, causing a collision. That is, trying to find them on my timing screen here. We'll check in on them a little bit later. Honzik, in the meantime, in the number 39. Whoa, a lot of curb once again. I mentioned at the start of the race, you could clatter over those things and send yourself into your rival, and you could take both of yourselves out, so he's got to be careful with that. Somebody needs to give a little lens wipe, a microfiber cloth to some of our camera ops here. Jonathan Riley. Oh, we're hearing the rain has stopped now. Ooh. So it's going to be wet for a bit, so this is not going to be immediate. But who blinks first? Who tries to take some dry tires to pick up some speed? 21 minutes should be enough time for a dry line starting to form. Oh my goodness. Is Durkop... No, this has got to be too fast. No way. Durkop doing it right now. Manson going in. Surely it's not going to dry up this quickly. Oh, these are our drivers that still needed the stop. Oh, well, this is a hard call then. This is an extremely hard call. Do you gamble on the dry tires this early, hoping that it dries up very, very quickly? Or do you know that you missed it by just a little bit? Take the rain tires knowing that you have to come in a bit of time. Wow. Mother Nature as fickle as ever. Meanwhile, Castorino sounds like he has retaken the lead now that those drivers that needed their pit stops have finally come in. Manar is going to return to second, Pertile into third. This is normally in real racing, there's all kinds of people that are following strategy and We got a small team on this one, so our heads are trying to figure this all out. This is like a beautiful mind with the numbers flying furiously in front of us right now. And I can't tell you who is going to be the one to be able to come out ahead on this. It is looking good for Castorino currently. Whoop, off track goes, was that Caracas? Not entirely sure. Yeah, that was Caracas. So he falls down to fourth off the podium. That might have been a critical error and was our only Ferrari on the podium, much to the dismay of the virtual Tifosi. Grantis now has our driver still with the fastest lap. I imagine that's going to stand unless it gets very, very dry and rubbered up quickly at the end of this race. But Statsenko still the fastest out there. Fisher chasing right now on board with Malinowski. And again, surely everybody's going to have to come in because we're expecting the track to start to dry up. It still looks quite slick out there right now. Only the drivers know what the feeling is on the circuit. We can only go by the visual look and how the cars are performing, and we haven't really seen any change. But in 18 minutes and a few seconds, with 30 some odd cars pounding around, we expect it's going to pull out a dry line. But then unfortunately, if you do that, then you can't go offline very easily to try and make overtakes. And as soon as you take that pit stop, you're going to fall back down the order. So you're going to have to pass cars as well, unless they pit immediately at the same time you do. Tariq Adam fighting for 21st with Manson. Going to look down to the inside. This is what I was talking about. He has to go into the puddles, into the wet here. And on those wet tires, that works out great. But as soon as he puts on dries, as soon as he goes over into that, it'll cool the tires. It'll slick them up. It'll make it very difficult to turn in. It could send him aquaplaning as well if he hits a big enough puddle. This is just, I mean, this is about as difficult as you could have asked for. I don't... The drivers just got the absolute worst roll-on stats on this one. Cannot believe it, as the Finn of Jimmy Holm still attacking here on Russell. 777 Ferrari versus the 777, or 777 Lambo versus the 777 Ferrari. What about Pertile still? Ooh, is he looking for second place? He looks very, very close. Oh, but Pertile still has 15 seconds holding over his head, too. And Statsenko with a 5-second penalty as well. Now, this is where things are interesting from Pertile, because as we get race control coming up here in a second, 21 and 144. Yeah, so this is why we see that 15 seconds. Causing a collision. And Minar is going to be ahead of him. So Pertile could try and make this pass, but he's not only going to have to pass him, he's going to have to stretch away and actually probably try and take the lead. So I don't know that him passing him is going to really do him all that good, other than just fighting in hope that that car makes a mistake. And I mean, a win is extremely unlikely unless he has a huge amount of pace at the end. Malinowski, in the meantime, going to try and get himself into the top 10. Leighton in the next one, just in front. Half a second up the road, that's Leighton in the Honda. He's trying to show himself in the mirror. And I always found that to be one of the more difficult parts of nighttime racing, is you can see someone's headlights duck out to the side, but it is much, much harder to tell the distance backwards. Are they attacking right now? Are they going to chuck it up the inside? And sometimes it can be too late by the time you realize that they are going to get that overlap. So somebody trying to scare you has a little bit of an advantage of you not knowing as well how far back are they truly right now. having to gauge in the darkness, try and see how close just those headlights are, because you can't see anything. They're so bright, except those two bright dots glaring in your mirrors, looking at it from the tiny box that is your wing mirrors. So we've got something with Statsenko and Pertile. So here's the replay. This is what got the 21, that penalty, down to the inside. Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty slam dunk. Just thought maybe he could get it in there. Oh, that was a bad rejoin, though, from Statsenko. Oof. So that didn't do him any favors, and Statsenko already has a 5-second penalty. Unless that 5-second penalty is for a bad rejoin, I'm not sure. Oh, it was for causing collision, so that was from earlier on in the race. Another one from race control. Car 144 and car 5 on lap 8. So, yeah, Statsenko, that explains that 5 seconds. So there we go. We got an update right away. Thank you to race control and to our producers behind the scene. Always vigilant for us. Okay, back to Pertile now once again. What do you do in a situation like this? He knows he's got that 15-second penalty. He knows he can try to pass. But he also knows, yeah, he thinks about it. He knows that, I mean, he's got little to lose to make the pass. It just is unlikely to do him any good. Ooh, that was a moment coming out of Villeneuve. So what do you do from here? Do you try and overtake? Or you just decide, you know what? I'm going to wind up about 5th position or so anyways. Let's just bring it home. Let's run as quick as I can. If I get a safe move, I'll make it, but let's not fight this one. What is going on in the head of the 21 driver? Out of Aqua and Minerali. It's a big climb uphill. Ooh, very defensive there from Minar. BMW is in no mood to allow the Aston Martin through, so he's going to make him work for it. Got to be careful about going offline like that. Look at the dry line starting to form. We can start to see it's less shiny here where the cars are being placed. Who is going to try and roll the dice, take some dry tires, get back out there, and blitz up through the field? Castorino still our leader. 6 seconds over Minar as well, who we've been kind of watching here ahead of Pertile. Now they're getting lap traffic on top of things. Hopefully everybody's watching those blue flags carefully. Ooh, maybe this could give an opportunity to Pertile. David gets a run. He's going to look for it. Don't think he's close enough for Villeneuve. He is indeed not. Another lapped car, one of our Lambos just in front of him. He's going to let them through. Good racing there from the Lambo. Lapped car knowing this is not his fight. Doesn't want to cause them any more headache than they need. Sounds like we had an incident happen somewhere else on the track. We'll see if we can get a replay up for this. Pertile certainly making Minar sweat on this one. Here's the replay as car number 2 and, oh, the 38. Oh, and again, a poor rejoin. You need to watch out when you come back on the track. You can't just go immediately. You have to make sure you are clear. That is so, so frustrating. That was a very big hit, too. Surely that did a fair amount of damage to each car. All right, we've given enough love to Pertile there. Let's go back to Jonathan Riley in 9th. Honzik, 0.3 of a second ahead of him. Honzik, one of the popular Aston Martins in this series. Riley representing for the prancing horse. As they head down the main straight once again, now down to the last 10 minutes. Everybody's made their pit stops. We haven't seen if anybody's going to come in and get some dries. Honestly, if you're going to get some dries and it's marginal, you have to do it now at the very, very latest. It might honestly be a little bit too late to try and make up that time. David has had enough following, and he's finally going to get Minar. So up to P2 for David Pertile. Kind of surprised we're not seeing Boothby catch up to some of those in front of him. Still about a second behind the next car up, actually. So the Sprout Esports driver of the number 46, Noah, both on the attack and the defense here. McLaren trying to see if he can get by one of the BMWs, but not close enough up through Piratella. Whitehead is behind him, though. Not by a whole lot. Half a second. And again, moves being attempted, or at least implied here by Eder. Can't seem to get far enough alongside. I wouldn't think you'd try and pass into Aqua Minerale, especially if it's not the last lap. I can't stress enough how scary it is into that turn. In fact, if they behave a bit, we're seeing a bit of a group in front of them. All right, back to Boothby now. Statsenko holding that fastest lap still. But will he find himself losing a top 5, maybe? Boothby hasn't been able to pass him yet, but he's certainly hounding him, just stalking him out on the racetrack for now. Into Tosa. They disappear behind the fencing. Reappear coming up the hill, past the stands. Valache Esports SRO driver looking to make up for a bad start to the season. Probably not the result that he really wanted if he's only able to get a top 5 today, but sometimes you have to go for damage limitation. And let's remember, 2 drop weeks available for all of our drivers. Good switch back there. Boy, Boothby really showing why he's won so many races. That was smooth stuff. You could barely really notice that he was even setting that up, but man, just made it happen like it was nothing. That'll get him into the top 5. And unfortunately, the 19 is sort of 1.5 seconds up the road. Not impossible in 7 minutes left, but it'll take a lot, I'm afraid. Meanwhile, back to Jonathan Riley once again. Hanzik just in front of him. This is the battle for P8. A lot of Aston Martins and Ferraris at the top of the field seem to be doing very well at this track. Riley around the outside. He thinks maybe it's possible, but unfortunately he gets fed out. Ooh, little action from Alanowski too. Leitonen, who's tired of being run over here, is going to fight back a bit. Look at that nice cut back from Machiez. Around the outside of Tosa, maybe. That's tough to do. If you get a good launch, sometimes you can use the momentum off the corner. He does pretty well. The Porsche might be able to outrun the Honda here. He's going to be on the wrong side once again, and he'll cut back. Also be on the wrong side here coming up into Aqua Minerale. Whoa, does it look like they banged doors a little bit? Coming into the corner, did they hit once again? It is fierce racing at the end. Oh, and the Porsche off the circuit. That is not going to do. He'll hang out in 10th for now. Whew, Riley is feisty. Great stuff from both of them, though. Both cars still racing right now. That's the important thing. Malinowski looking back at Riley. He's rebuffed him once. Can he keep doing that for another 5 minutes is the question. That's going to be difficult. Don't want to give him a good run off of that last corner. The slipstream going to pick up here. If you give a too good of a tow, you almost know that that car behind is going to try and make a pass. Not close enough this time. So Lehtinen going to be able to hold on to it. Now they're starting to get caught up, though. That's Fisher, that's Eater, that's Whitehead. So 5-car train going to come out of Tosa. Anybody in this group slips up, they're going to be pounced upon. Nobody's going to take and wait for a second chance. When it happens, you got to go. Don't forget, we've also got some fun stuff today with Driver of the Day. We've got a poll for this one. And we've got some giveaways as well. Chat can get a $10 Steam voucher if you type in CDA. And then a giveaway for one of the drivers who finishes at least 80% of the race, a 1 month of Coach Dave Delta sub. It'll be nicely fun for them. But tell us, who do you think is the driver of the day out there? Whether it's Castorino, Bertile, Minar, or Boothby. And it looks like Noah Eater here in the number 46 on Fisher. Again, in the midst of that train. Jonathan Riley now down in 9th. That's Honzik just in front of him. Coming up into the Villeneuve chicane once again. It's down to the last couple laps. Ooh, Jonathan, big dive off to the right-hand side. Tries to cut back. The over-under doesn't work this time. Castorino. How far ahead is he from this group, actually? Because I wonder if we're going to get the white flag soon. Will they have 2 or they have 1 more to go? A minute 50 laps, minute 45, really? The rain obviously slowing them up. And some of this weather is coming off the car ahead, so that's why we're probably seeing these droplets. But we heard earlier that the rain had stopped. So they come back down the hill. And if the leader, I don't think we'll have 1 to go here. There's Riley down into Ravazza. I think we're going to be 2 to go, but it will be very tight on which it is, 1 or 2. There is your leader, Castorino. Cross the line within seconds of this thing going for a full another lap. Can't tell you if I'm as familiar with if the system will end it a bit early or if it'll let it go. We'll find out together. It's the Italian coming up in around 6.7 seconds. And let's not forget, Bertile has a 15-second penalty. So Minar, technically to be second behind him as it stands right now. The 19, I believe, should be promoted up onto the podium. So Ferrari will return to those top 3 with how the penalties looking like they're going to be applied. That'll make all of the Italian fans happy. I mean, not only are they going to get to have an Italian winning, although granted it's not going to be an Italian in a Ferrari, But looks like a home soil win for Castorino. Minar down here, looking at a potential second place. Where's our leader at? We got 11 seconds left. There he is, coming to the line. I think he can make it. I think he'll just cross it before 0. And there it is. Checkered flag is out. He's not going to have to go around that extra lap. Castorino, an Italian, wins in Italy here at historic Imola. Pertile will come home behind him in second, but once those penalties are applied, expect him to get demoted, as Minar was third at the line, but should be P2. Caracas should get up onto the podium for this one in his number 19 Ferrari. Riley fighting all the way to the line. He's not quite close enough. Can't get by Hanzik. So they all trickle across now. We did see a few lapped cars, not as many as I thought. So I think we've got, looks like about 30 some cars that are going to finish all of our laps of this 60-minute race. As Jimmy Holm is not given up until the very end. This is with Russell. Oh, tried to go around the outside. No, he's going to switch back underneath him. He's going to be able to sneak through. Wow. And the Italian War got a little bit bloody there, as Holm is going to just shove him aside and finish 19th because of that one. Here comes Luke Addison in the meantime, in the number 13, finishing 24th. And yeah, you could see those behind him. Sherritt as well, by the way, looks like he's already pitted, so I wonder if he wound up a lap down. His strategy coming back to bite him on that one. The number 23 of Castorino is going to take the victory here for round 2 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Cup. What a fantastic race we got on this one. Yes, it was a little bit difficult to see at times, but man, it was exciting racing that I think made up for that. And thankfully, we only had to stay up virtually, as we didn't have to be up too late for the race itself, even though this took place past midnight in the virtual world. Going to see if we can wait for our winner coming to talk to us here. A bit sad Tapelo didn't get to join us for much of that race. I'm sure he was watching on and enjoying the heck out of that one. But drivers absolutely putting on a show for us. Meanwhile, driver of the day. Do we have our driver of the day here? Need to be given that information. Excuse me, we're not announcing the driver of the day. It's still going for 2 more minutes. So, cast your vote in the chat. Castorino, Pertile, Minar, or Boothby. And let us know who you think deserves driver of the day today. Could be by any merit that you want. Maybe it's the highest finisher of them. Maybe it's by number of cars passed. Maybe you just think they put in a really gutsy drive. Maybe you think they had a clever strategy. Yeah. And I think that may be Amadeo Castorino that we are talking to. Amadeo.
Hello.
It sounds like we got you. Congratulations on the victory out there today. That looked like just unbelievable conditions in the dark and stop-start rain. I mean, that's worst case scenario.
Yeah, it was pretty complicated race for sure, because the strategy was so hard to guess, because just like 5 minutes, like 20 seconds before the start, like we saw that the rain isn't in 30 minutes, but in 10 minutes. So some people take the risk to go on wet tires for the start. And then we saw after 10 minutes that like in the last 20 minutes we became dry again. So it was a bit of roulette on the strategy for guess what to do. I was so like, I don't know what to do before the pit, because like I was on dry tires, but I know like in 20 minutes it's the rain is for another 20 minutes, and after that will become dry. So I don't know if like stay on dry or go for wet, but at the end I choose to go on wet tires, and luckily was the right choice. And yeah, after the pit, like I was just focused to push much as I can, because I don't know if maybe someone who put dry tires at the end will come back to me. So I just push hard as possible and hope to win the race. And luckily I won, so it went well.
You not only won the race, you won the hearts of the fans too. You just won driver of the day, and by a wide margin. Next nearest car was, I think, 22% behind you. So it definitely swung heavily in your favor on that one. You also won at an Italian track. Does it mean a lot to you, even if it's the virtual world, to get those home wins?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah.
I like that. Nice, simple answer there.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was go for your question.
So you started off with a win in round 2 on this one. So where do you go from here in terms of the rest of the championship? It looks like you're performing well. You had the worst thrown at you, and you came out shining with a win by multiple seconds. Does this kind of encourage you that maybe you've got it even when it's in better conditions later on?
Yeah. I hope to maybe win some other race. Will be for sure so hard because the level is pretty high. I was a bit like not unfortunate, but I made some mistake on round 1 because I took some penalty. But also round 1 I could do a podium for sure. I think P2, P3 without mistakes. But sometimes it go good, sometimes it go bad. Like also in this race, somebody took penalty, do mistakes. So every time it's pretty hard to be on the top of the level. But I'll try my best and hope to be there in this interview room again.
Oh, we hope you will as well. One last one before we let you go.
Yeah.
You won it in an Aston Martin. Are your fellow Italians going to be mad that you didn't ride in the prancing horse?
Yeah. I say sorry to all the Italians because I drove not an Italian car, but I hope they apologize me because I won the race. That's the important. You can't have everything. So
I love it.
I won in an Italian track, so that's enough, I hope.
I think so. I think it's worth cheering for. Congratulations. You gave us some fun out there.
Thank you.
Amedeo Castorino taking the win. Love his attitude on that one. And sounds like we will get to talk to second place finisher Benar. And I'd love to hear Philip's thoughts about how that battle for P2 was going at the end of the race. Philip, do you have a copy?
Yeah, if I can talk to all the sweat in the winter.
Yeah, I'm sure that was nerve-wracking in that darkness and the rain and having to deal with all the uncertainties. But one certainty that you had was a penalty for the guy that you were racing for second with. Did you know about that, and did that change how you raced him at the end?
Yeah, I mean, I knew there was an incident. I didn't know who was at fault, but I just kept on racing, ignored it in the first stint, and I was trying to keep David behind me, and obviously the Aston is ridiculous in the weight on Imola especially. So that was such a hard push, and with it, when I saw the penalty pop up, I had such a big relief. Like it felt like someone took dumbbells off my shoulders, and I could just chill and drive all the way to the checkered flag. So yeah, I changed my driving a bit. That's it.
We were a little surprised because at the end, when we heard that the rain was stopping, we thought that a dry line would start to form and maybe drivers would have to stop again to put the slicks back on. Were you surprised as well that it stayed wet enough you didn't have to get into the pits again?
Yeah, look, we had a very recent 24-hour on Nordschleife, and we had basically the exact same wind, exact same temperatures at night, and I did the graveyard shift, and we noticed it took literally like I think 50 or 60 minutes for the track to dry up, and I kept that in mind for this race. I didn't know if it was going to be the same for this race, obviously, but I was thinking of taking slicks in the pit window, but then that thought of the North Shore race popped up, and I was like, okay, no, that's not going to work. I think the track's going to take really long to dry up. It's not going to dry up in 20 minutes. It's kind of expected it.
Yeah, and you made the right call in the end. In general, are you happy to see the other side of this one, just because everything was so difficult, or do you find yourself thriving and enjoying these sort of really tricky scenarios?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's my first race. It's it's actually second or third race, I think, now in the BMW from switching from the Ferrari. And I mean, last season the Ferrari was rough. Like that car is so difficult to drive on Imola compared to the BMW. But I had a lot of new experiences this race. I really enjoy these mixed conditions, and I like finding the limit before someone else. And it's definitely a skill I would say you have to hone in this game, is finding the limit of grip in changeable conditions like this. Definitely means something.
Well, you did very, very well on that one. A P2. Congratulations on the podium, sir.
Thank you. Cheers.
Philip Menard coming home, as we said, in P2. Grantis Caracas is going to be coming home P3, also promoted up onto the podium by that penalty. Grantis, a Ferrari on the podium. I'm sure the Italians are all cheering, happy that you got promoted up onto there. But what was it like driving out in the darkness in the wet?
Yeah, it was absolutely crazy. Even practicing was difficult for these sort of conditions. Of course the conditions were really tough, especially when I got this sort of quali. Started only P12. Definitely was not happy with that, but obviously I didn't put much prep into this race because I didn't have much time for this round. But yeah, still very happy that I nailed the strategy, really nailed the overtakes, nailed my position on track, and had a decent pace in the wet, which I didn't expect. So yeah, very happy that I literally nailed everything after that rough quali.
How did you try and approach this one with the changeable conditions? Some drivers even starting on wets out there to try and pull a trick on others. Were you gonna try and see if you can undercut anybody by kind of gambling a bit, or did you want to play it safe and just wait for what felt like, okay, it's for sure dry now or for sure wet and I got to switch?
Yeah, well, even before the quali, the rain is coming after the race, so I was already thinking, what should I do with the strategy? And then when the quali ended, I know there's a pit window after 20 minutes, and I know there's gonna be like at least 3 laps on dry track, so Wes will be dead literally in those laps. So I knew that I've done this before in previous championship with the same conditions and this sort of pit window. I have a bit of experience of that, so that's why I guess I did the right decision there. But yeah, I already straight up knew what I'm gonna do, and it worked. So yeah, really happy with that.
Well, we got another track that's known for those wet races, but a very technical one in Suzuka. How do you consider yourself over in Japan?
Yeah, well, Suzuka is a very tough track, of course, especially with the track limits. So yeah, we'll need to put a lot of preparation in it. I know I'm not like, I need to drive a bit more on that track with this car. So yeah, definitely gonna prepare more for the next race. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Well, best of luck, and again, congratulations. Like I said, a Ferrari esports driver taking it to the podium on home soil. I'm sure you're proud.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. See you.
Grantis Caracas there, finishing in P3. I believe that is going to wrap us up. But before we go, we are going to do our giveaways, of course, starting with the driver giveaway. These are all drivers that finished 80% of the race. They get 1 month Coach Dave Delta sub here. So let's spin the wheel. Let's see who is going to get themselves a month's worth of coaching. Better hope it's not our winner, or else he's going to get even better out there. And Malinowski is going to be able to get himself a nice prize to see if he can get some more speed with a little guiding force behind him. Nicely done on him. And we said before, there is a giveaway for the chat, $10 Steam voucher for everybody who has typed in CDA up to now. So we'll do that here in a second and see who gets a nice little $10 Steam voucher. Maybe you can get a little more off the game that you've been wanting to try, or maybe you've got a game that's one of the less expensive ones that you want to try out, but you couldn't really make yourself pull the trigger. Now you can essentially get it for free if you win these $10. So this could actually go towards being something nice for someone. So it looks like we're going to pull that up in just a moment's time. Kind of jealous on that. There's definitely a couple teams or a couple games that I wish I could get. Here we go. So all of our drivers, or not drivers, all of our chat members who entered in CDA, let's spin the wheel. Who is going to win $10 in Steam money as it comes to a halt? And Bjorn B, congratulations. You've got yourself $10 in a Steam voucher to get yourself a nice nice $10. So you'll come into the Discord to claim that one. So join us here on the Genisus Esports Discord, and you can get those $10 towards your Steam account. That's going to wrap us up. A big thank you to our sponsors, IMB Raceware and Coach Dave Delta. As well, we want to give a nod to Genisus Risk, who is a proud supplier of Immersive Labs. But in the meantime, a big thank you to our team, Daniel, Gareth, as well as to Pelo. And don't forget to tune in more here on Genisus Extreme, because we'll have all kinds of awesome esports here on the channel. I'm Joe Peak. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.
The engines